Here's your smart fact of the day. Did you know in 2013 about 1 million people had a second life? Yes, they had a second life on Second Life, the online multimedia platform that was started in 2003. Yes, 2003, that's how far it predates the metaverse, which hasn't yet completely taken off as yet. By the way, Second Life didn't work. Second Life failed. And in Smarter With Sid, we're going to try and figure out if there are any lessons from Second Life and if there are any lessons from any gamification that might help us in the future, whether it's the metaverse or the real world. Let's go. So why did Second Life fail? Let's try to figure that out first before we move ahead any place. I think with Smarter With Sid, what we do is that we, kind of understand the context, then understand the first principles, then understand if there are any takeaways that we can actually find useful for ourselves, right? But in this one, what I wanted to do was be very clear about what I'm talking about first. I'm not necessarily talking about Second Life, but I'm talking about the new world that is going to be upon us very soon. In fact, it is already upon us. Second Life is just something which is remnant of the past that was like a predictor for the future. It was an online multimedia platform and it kind of told us how the multiverse is going to be like. But if I look at how life itself is going to be 5 years downstream, 10 years downstream, 15 years downstream, there seem to be 2 or 3 very clear predictions about how it's going to be. The first thing is that we are going to see an increase in this hybrid situation of either work from home or work from office. The second thing that we're going to see is that the younger generation is going to be completely enamored by gamification and gaming, essentially. Not gamification maybe, but gaming. The two terms are different. Gamification is when you make an ordinary thing a game by applying some rules to it. And gaming is basically you create a game and you play it and you either win or lose, and you know how that goes. But so gamification / gaming is the second bit. Work from home is the first bit. And obviously the metaverse itself, wherein, today we will be wearing these bulky Oculus Rift sort of goggles, but tomorrow it might just end up being just ordinary specs like we wear even today. So given these three and a deadly combination of these three, and of course with AI and other nanobots and xenobots, I'm not even getting into that. This seems to be the future that we are stepping into. But more than that, what I think we have to also figure out is the motivation that a human being like you and me will need to have and will need to consistently operate from if we have to kind of succeed in this coming weird, crazy world. Second Life offers some suggestions on what can go right and what can go wrong, right? So let's look at Second Life first. What was Second Life? It was essentially an online program. It was an online multimedia platform. And it was something which allowed you to take on an avatar or a virtual representation. And clearly all the geeks and the nerds just swallowed it up. It started off in 2003, so almost 20 years back now. And it became really popular, had 1 million subscribers, then it fell down to 800 to 900,000, and it still has it. I think Second Life is just about to manage to stay afloat. I think the CEO is back, if I'm not mistaken, to try and make sense of how we can enter the metaverse. So lesson number 1 is that, hey, a lot of times, we tend to get our timing wrong, and maybe the metaverse is a second chance for those of us who are wanting us, to try something out again, but in a better way. A lot of times in the .com boom or even in Web 2.0, so Web 1, Web 2, a lot of people had a lot of wonderful ideas which were let down by technology. I mean, think about it. Even YouTube was preceded by another something like YouTube, which failed because the tech bandwidth was terrible. So one lesson which I would certainly say and take from Second Life is maybe what we need to do is understand the limitations of technology and understand how they are going to play out to our fantastic ideas. So if you're an ideas creator, make sure that technology helps. The second thing that Second Life also kind of teaches us through its failure is, I think people made a mistake by not making it into a sort of a gaming platform. So there was no real purpose to Second Life, which was very apparent. People were creating their own purposes, and people were supposed to create their own purposes, and it was supposed to be user generated content. And To be honest, user-generated content can work very well on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter, which are very clearly marked out as social media. But on something called Second Life, wherein you actually are entering into a serious avatar and you're actually living a life over there in the virtual world, having something as complicated and messy as real life without any gaming elements might be quite difficult to swallow for a customer. So the second lesson that Second Life gives us is maybe what we need to do whenever we are creating a product or a marketing program or, a business model or something, an idea, innovation. We need to add some gamification elements to it. So gamification is certainly going to have an impact, not just on our generation, but on the generation to come, especially the generation that is working in the gig economy. Now, I read a book called Super Better, written by a lady called Jane McConigal. In fact, I had talked about her book Imaginable a few episodes back. And the fact is that I think that it was something really stunning. It was so obvious and in such plain sight that the book allowed me to actually understand that why gamification in making our life slightly more extraordinary can help. So now let's get out of the metaverse, let's get out of Second Life, and let's just look at our first life, to be honest. And if you notice, if we have to become super and better, what do we do? What do we do? Whether we are in the metaverse, whether we are in augmented reality, whether we are, in actual life, whether we are an employee, whether we are consultant, whatever we may be in the future. Do we really gamify our lives? Now, this seems like a very weird concept, but trust me, if you allow yourself to imagine a little, you could easily gamify the more mundane and boring and ordinary moments of your life. Now, why is that important? That's probably important because I think the people who are going to get super and better in the future are going to be converting those mundane, ordinary, and boring moments in life and make them interesting, not just for the experience that it will provide them, which will be better than the mundaneness, but also the fact that they will be able to do better. Now, why do I say that with confidence? I say that with confidence is because I think playing a game is something humans are naturally connected to. It's in our evolutionary biology and psychology, the idea of playing games either individually or maybe even as groups. The fact is that the moment we start gamifying something and start playing a game, now imagine you stacking up your old documents to clean up your room is a game, and you create some sort of rules around it, you're going to do it better. So it works at an individual level too. Or you can connect and make a game of writing the best possible paper for your term end exam, and then suddenly you are in a situation wherein you have created a group oriented game. Fact is that both occasions you have to apply your head and construct a reality that is superimposed on the normal thing. So whether it's an exam paper or whether it's a document that you have to give at work, or whether you have to clean up your room, or whether you have to work out, those moments can actually have mundane stuff, that it can have ordinary stuff. But the fact is that if you can overlay a game or two and you can just be a little imaginative about it, on top of these mundane moments, you could end up maximizing a lot of things, making yourself more productive, and overall having an immersive experience. I think the key is not to make your entire life into a game, and that is where probably Second Life failed, just circling back to Second Life. But certainly those mundane moments can go. I hope you like this particular episode of mine of Smarter With Sid. And if you like this episode, do like and subscribe to the podcast. We are growing every day. Thanks to all of you. And if you like podcasts like these, do go to IVM. They've got some fantastic new stuff waiting for you. And hey, if you like me, I'm the traveling professor. Do follow me on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Until next time then.